expert in the law, stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law, he replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live well. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? He said, and Jesus replied, and he said, instead of answering Jesus' question, he just came out with the story. And he told him the story. He says, in reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho when he fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to that place and saw him, passed by on the other side as well. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on the man. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring in oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. Which of these 3 neighbors, which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. Jesus told him, go and do likewise. Go and do likewise. He was saying to the man, go and do the same thing. You heard the story, you heard the Samaritan do. And if you guys remember from when we talked about it, the Samaritan and the Jews, they didn't get along. So the Samaritan helped the Jew. So that really, back then, it really wasn't his neighbor. But a neighbor is anybody. And that Samaritan understood that I don't care about cultural boundaries. I don't care what the law says. I don't care what my friends say. I got love in this person because he is my neighbor. He's my fellow brother in the Lord, and he worships the same God as I do. So, which of these people do you currently see yourself as with other people in this youth group, or even people outside the youth group? Do you guys see yourselves? I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so on the news, I turn on the TV and it always goes to Fox 5 whenever I turn on the TV, and it said 90% of the people, well, if you saw a dog or a person on the side of the road, dying, 97 people would protect the dog.
Yeah. It's true. But, so, back to the point where I was trying to say is, do you guys see yourself as the robbers? Are you going by and bullying people? Not too many people focus on the robbers in the story. But do you guys do that in school, bullying other people? Are you in school, stealing the kids' lunch money, giving the kids swirlies in the toilet bowl,
Ew. Who does that anymore?
I would. Do you see yourself as the priest? Maybe you guys are involved in youth group here, and you're feeling pretty good about yourself, whatever, and you don't feel really need to help people. Or do you see yourself as a Levite? Levites were pretty holy people. They didn't have to pay tithes to the church. They're pretty up there. He walked right by them. But the Samaritan, like I said, the person who was not supposed to like him, according to the cultural standards at that time, helped the man. So when you guys are in the youth group and when you're interacting with each other, who do you see yourselves as? Because to be honest with you guys, I don't see a whole lot of Samaritans here. I did when I first came here, but I'll brag about you till the day is over. But honestly, there's not a whole. I don't see a whole lot of Samaritans right now. And that's sad because I know we all can get along, and we all do get along. When we have good worship nights, we unify, we go on trips, we have fun. Went to the manor, we all have fun, But when it comes down to it on a normal night or whatever, you guys are hitting each other, you guys are calling each other names, there's nobody fulfilling the story when I see those things. All right, so that's just one story to kind of prove the point. Now we're going to talk about a little bit more about love. Love is kind of a hard subject for people. Some people find it hard to love other people. For me, I've always had a hard time trusting people and loving people and saying I love you to people. And even people I dated, it took a long time sometimes for me to say I love you. Or even to my parents sometimes, just because it hurts. And, but I'm coming out of that more. I'm learning just, it's so much more easy to love than to not to love people sometimes. Because, it doesn't matter what they do. It's not what God did for me. He sent his only son down to die for my sins. Who am I to judge somebody else because they hurt me? Or who am I to hold on forgiveness to somebody and not love on them? Jesus said to Peter, when he came back, Jesus was resurrected, came back and he was hanging out with his disciples. He said, "Do you love me?" He says, "Well, yeah, of course I do." He said, "Well," then he asked him 2 more times, "Do you love me?" He said, "If you love me, go feed my sheep." Now, why would Jesus ask him the same question 3 times? And each time, he's having the same response. Of course I do. Well, why do you ask that? Because he wanted Peter to really know that he really does love people. He really does love him. And if he loves him, if he loves God, then he loves other people. All right, so he says, 1 John 4. So I'm going to bring up that slide. You can read it. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, "I love God," yet hates his brother, he is a liar. For anyone who does not love his brother, whom he has seen, cannot love God whom he has not seen. And he has given us this command: whoever loves God must also love his brother. So this is a command from God. We had the 10 Commandments and we had the 600-something rules, but then it came down to it. And John was saying, this is a command from God. We got to remember, love other people, love your brother who you see. I can see Abby right now. I have to love her because I can see her. How can I love God who I can't see if I can't love somebody who I can see right here? It just doesn't make sense. So if you're not doing that, if you're not loving your brother, and if you're not loving on each other here, yet you call yourselves a Christian, you guys are lying. You're lying to yourself, you're lying to other people, and you're lying to the people you're trying to witness to and sing to, or talk to. If you're having problems with people here, it says that, do not let the sun go down with anger in your heart. I've had a hard time with that many times. I just, I get into a fight with my mom or something. I'm just like, oh, I don't want to go and talk to her. Oh, I don't want to go talk to my dad. Oh, my sister, she just irritates me. There's been, I think one time my sister hit my car. I just did not want to talk to her for days. It's just like, but the Bible says specifically, do not let the sun go down on your anger. So if you're fighting with somebody, it's your job to go to that person and say, listen, I know we're in a fight and I know I'm angry with you. I'm still processing. I don't really want to talk about it, but I just want to say, I still love you, and we'll get past this. But just give me some time. That's fair enough. If that's all you can muster, if you can't fully, sometimes you just can't come to the point and say, you know what? All right, I forgive you. You just killed my brother. I think it's okay now. And that's an extreme example, but you can't always come to that point right away and say, okay, all right, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Sometimes you got to say, all right, just give me some time, but I still love you anyway. That's a fair thing to say. But that, and that's a mature thing to say. Because that's what we're called to do. So if you're out there, if you're singing to people, or if you're talking to people, like I've been out in the streets and I've talked to people on the mission field, or in a class with Church and Sound, I used to take an evangelism class, and I would feel bad if I went out and had an argument with my mom and then go out and talk to people about Jesus and Jesus' love. I'm like, I am such a hypocrite right now. And like you'll hear what's his face, what's her name, Elliot. Elliot said he used to teach a marital class, and him and his wife, and every week him and his wife would get into a huge argument before they would go out and preach about having a good marriage. Now, how funny and ironic that is. They're talking about having